And why conservatives wouldn't vote for this or criticize the bill is beyond any recognition I could come up with. Well, frankly, I think they're misleading their followers. I think they're pushing our members in places where they don't want to be. And frankly, I just think that they've lost all credibility. You know, when they pushed us into this fight to defund Obamacare and to shut down the government. Most of you know, my members know, that wasn't exactly the strategy that I had in mind. But if you'll recall, the day before the government reopened, one of the people at one of these groups stood up and said, well, we never really thought it would work. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore, a la network. Bill, maybe the cynical side of us says this was just well coordinated or something, or do you think he's just had it?
I like John Boehner a lot. On this one, I'm actually on the side of the conservatives because
Really?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No, I wrote. In fact, I wrote a column that's going to be in Newsday tomorrow, saying how much we want this détente in Washington. We're all dying for it. But I think if you do a budget deal without addressing debt, it's at the end of the day, it's harmful. I do like Boehner, and I think what Boehner's doing, which is logical for the mainstream Republicans, which I typically am part of, is that they don't want anything to change the subject from Obamacare. They want to get the Senate in 14,
And they
ideally.
don't want to shut the government
And they
down.
don't want to go through
default,
They don't want to
right?
go through this again. But I think the debt crisis to me is such a crisis and of such importance that I side with them on this one.
It's 2035. That's when the numbers don't add up. 2035.
Yeah, it's getting worse. I mean, every year the deficit spending is adding to it, and we're just killing our kids. I mean, we're just killing them.
I couldn't disagree more. I think certainly Republicans could not afford to veer away from a path of moderation and compromise. They absolutely had to compromise. They did the right thing. I'm not a fan of Boehner's. I completely understand what he was saying. Yeah. To me, and also I think Democrats, the president's taken some hard licks, and some of them have consequences as a result. I think they did the right thing. They took a medium path, and I'm telling you, constituents think, even if they agree with you about debt, at the end of the day, we need these people to be grown-ups and compromise.
They want a functioning government.
But I don't think it's immoderate to fight for reasonable spending in the country. When you see what we're adding to this thing, I mean,
Bill, the budget wasn't exactly a Democrat's dream.
No,
I mean, look at the unemployment extension benefits.
I agree, but
it's not like,
but nothing on long-term entitlements, nothing whatsoever. The spending's still way over the line. I agree. We all want to feel so good. It's holiday time. We all want to get together and sing Kumbaya and say, look, they're working together in Washington
the liberals are already giving the Democrats a hard time for going along with this.
I agree. I think, the fact they don't extend unemployment is borderline criminal.
But just from a political side, Dominic, this is his first time I can remember where you get the idea. He said, if it means to be speaker, I got to keep going over the cliff with these lunatics. I don't want the job. So it's the first time. And then we saw the vote yesterday, and Andrew and I were watching it with you unfold, and we said, hey, you know what? This thing's going to be real close once they get the minimum they need. They kept going, and the margin was overwhelming, which I think from an inside baseball standpoint is a lot. All right, I want to get to
wrong about that.
Right, we were, and I'm glad. Now, this next one, I want to get your take because you were involved in it. Mr. Astorino, Westchester County Executive, won by a healthy margin, more than we thought he was going to, but he won. He was down in Washington. It wasn't just because he was checking out the sites here, patting Boehner on the back. No. He was down there because some folks are trying to talk him into running for governor, correct?
Well, actually, I was with him, and
yes.
he was actually down to speak to the American Enterprise Institute about the HUD issue. And while he was down there, he had a number of meetings, including the New York congressional delegation. Mm-hmm. And that was a very encouraging meeting from the delegation, and I think
was that checking out possibilities for running for governor?
Yes,
okay.
That's what the meeting was about.
Okay.
And the meeting ran about 40 minutes. It was a good meeting, and I think, Rob said basically he's thinking about this now. He's actively considering. He's talking to funders. He's talking to political people. He's not going to jump into an empty pool if he doesn't do suicide missions, but he's doing the due diligence on whether it makes sense to do this next year.
And obviously the math is registration heavily Democrat in this state, fundraising advantage huge for not only an incumbent Democrat, but obviously Cuomo.
That's right.
and really little in the way of statewide infrastructure to help out a Republican, right? I mean, some of the recent names from the Palladinos on down, that's hurt the Republican brand, not helped it, right?
That's right. I mean, what's the dynamic that exists that's attractive is that for the first time in many, many years, a Republican can run probably unfettered, no primary, and get the conservative line as well. And that hasn't happened since George Pataki. I mean, Harry Wilson got that as a comptroller candidate, came within a point of winning, but it's a very rare thing in New York, which has had a lot of infighting in the last decade.
And the conservatives aren't going to try and hold him to some litmus test, right? If nobody else, they'll go along.
Good
right?
relationship on both, yeah, exactly.
But if you get the line, you still got to go up against Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be a walk in the park.
Could have a glass jaw.
More than a glass straw. That is, I think Andrew Cuomo is never to be underestimated.
But could you think of any Republican? Really, I was doing the math here. I can't think. Astrino's better than the field. I mean, with all due respect to the state chairman, I mean, they're probably much better than Cox in terms of statewide of his shot. He's charismatic and the rest. Can you think of any Republican that's a better odds than Astorino here, given the landscape?
I can't say that part, but I can say that really no one comes close to Andrew Cuomo in every aspect.
And you don't even agree with him all the time.
I don't agree with him all the time. He's such a formidable force, and you know, whether it's
because people
at home. No, no. I'll tell you why. He gets stuff done, even though people don't like him. He got stuff done. He's gotten stuff done when the legislature wouldn't, when the communities wouldn't.
He took the low-hanging fruit.
Once
it got difficult, he backed off.
I don't
There's no
agree.
pension reform. There's no mandate relief. There's no Medicaid reform.
No.
There's none. There's absolutely none.
At the end of the day, I don't think Astorino's going to run. He's an attractive candidate. He does well, but he's up against an 800-pound gorilla. He does not want that fight.
Let me lay out the math of the state. You have three basic sections of the state. You have New York City, where a Republican running for governor would have to do about 7 points better than Joe Lhota did. Joe Lhota got 24. You have to get about 31, 32.
His relationship with
Western New York
communities.
is in full revolt against Governor Cuomo. They're angry with him for the gun laws. They're angry with him from a lot of things. And then you have the suburbs, Nassau, Suffolk, that just overwhelmingly elected Republicans, and Westchester County, where Rob is the county executive. I mean, when you look at it regionally, it's doable.
Problem is when you go north, right?
Well, when you go north, central New York, you have to get that up. But the economy is rough. Unemployment's higher in New York than nationally at 7.7%. There are a lot of troubles in the state.
But to get name recognition statewide, that costs money, right?
You need to raise money. I mean, Rob raised $6 million for a county executive seat. Yeah, so he's got a history of raising money.
Loses though, because it sort of takes the shine off of him, and that makes him a less viable candidate statewide.
He would run to win. He would not want to come close.
But now I see why candidates do these races, because listening to you, Bill, it makes me want to run for governor. But you make it sound like it's so easy.
We'll meet in the green room afterwards. I got a spot for you.
I don't think anyone can come close to the popularity of Andrew Cuomo. In every district, including Western New York.
His popularity is 44%. His negative rating is 56.
Yes, and you know what? He hasn't been campaigning against Rob Astorino.
He's been campaigning for 4 years.
Wait till he campaigns. And Western New York, I think you overstated. Yes, I know there's pushback about the SAFE. I understand all that.
Yeah.
He has
and the property
spent
taxes,
so much time
and the mandate
in economic development activities in Western New York. And you know what? He'll do it everywhere else. He will surprise you how well he'll do.
Well, let's head across the river here to New Jersey, where Chris Christie's in an unusual place, at least for him, and that's the hot seat. His appointment, head of Port Authority, he resigned that amid questions about mysterious traffic problems on the GWB this fall. Local lanes closed for traffic study that apparently didn't exist. Backed up traffic way into Fort Lee, potential danger for emergency vehicles. It appears Christie appointee, he ordered the traffic jam. That is political payback after Fort Lee's Democratic mayor didn't endorse Christie. No one's accusing Christie of orchestrating it, but when asked, this is what he had to say.
I worked the cones, actually, Matt. Unbeknownst to everybody, I was actually the guy out there. I was in overalls and a hat, so I wasn't, but I actually was the guy working the cones out there. You really are not serious.
Andrew?
It's embarrassing for Governor Christie. It's whether he knew about it or not. This plays badly across the country. This is another, for any of those moderates around the country who thought maybe this might be a Republican we can play ball with, not when you're playing dirty ball, not when you're playing dirty politics.
Does it work in Jersey, though? Kind of seems like, you know, like...
I respectfully disagree. This means nothing, absolutely nothing. The governor will say, the guy that, if this is what happened, and we know that's what happened.
That's what happened.
The guy that orchestrated it resigned, end of story. There's no way to attach this to the governor. It means absolutely
he's not
nothing.
dumb enough to send some text
Right.
like, hey, back it up to Fort Lee, you know?
Right.
But we shall see. All right. We'll get into the other political stories of future day because I want to save time here for the next segment. I got 4 questions for these 4 esteemed gentle people about what would they do if they got put into a spot. We'll talk about that after this.